Hi guys, this is Katie Brunshaw, the president and founder of Certum Solutions. We are a QuickBooks and bookkeeping firm outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, in a little place called Monroe. Today we're going to go over the manual bank feed function in QuickBooks Online and some ways that it might be practically usable to your business to help with certain situations, okay? And that's a lot of gobbledygook that sounds like a bunch of nothing, but it'll make sense here in a minute. Before I get started, if you like the functional workflows in QuickBooks and that kind of content, please like this video. That tells me that you want to see more of this. If you like all the content we have here on the Certum page, or if you like this kind of content and you just want to show some extra likes, please subscribe to our channel. That way you get alerted whenever we have new content available. Now, back to brass tacks. What are we talking about today? Okay, manual bank feeds. When you think of the word bank feed or the words bank feed in QuickBooks, usually what you think of is I connected my bank account there and it's bringing in all my transactions. And you would be completely accurate. So then you go, well, then what's manual about it? There's a couple nuanced situations where manual bank feeds, yes, I said manual again, will be really helpful to you and your business. The biggest situation for me is when you're first setting up a QuickBooks account in your bank and maybe say, hey, I have my checking account. Let me connect it to QuickBooks. Used to be most banks only brought in 90 days worth of transactions or so on. Many of them go much further back nowadays, up to a year or whatever. But it's really up to the bank and their connection to determine how many transactions are brought in historically to your bank feeds. Okay. So that leaves us wondering, say I've got 2 years worth of bank feeds I need to bring in, but it's only bringing in a year. How do I bring in the rest of them, right? Manual bank feeds. Here's another one. I've got a bank account with such and such a bank, and for some reason they don't support QuickBooks bank feeds or QuickBooks bank connections. How do I get that in there? Manual bank feeds. I'm sure there's other situations in which they're helpful, but those are the two that immediately come to mind for me. Yes, with QuickBooks, you can import just about every single kind of list item you can think of from Excel. Some sorts of transactions you can bring in, but for the most part, you're still relegated to whatever you can bring in a spreadsheet sync, also using a third-party importer to try to bring in other transactions. However, you can get around all that with manual bank feeds. If it is a cash type of transaction, that's an easy way to bring a bunch in at once, and you already have your data entered for you. It's on your bank statement, okay? Now here's the next question I know many of you wonderful people are thinking about. My bank statement's in a PDF. How am I going to get a PDF into QuickBooks? Okay, well, there's a trick to that. What we're going to do first is we're going to go down to your transactions and we're going to click over to bank transactions, okay? And for the record, this is my demo file. I cannot blow anything up, knock on wood. If it's possible, I will, but my hope is that I don't, okay? The other thing to remember this import process is the first time you try something like this, do yourself a favor and only bring in a couple so you can kind of see how they come in. That way, if you bring them in and you're like, oh, I didn't know it was going to happen that way, what we call an unexpected result, then you can do it again and you've only gotten a few little funny stink bugs that you got to take care of. There's going to be parts in this process I'm going to tell you, make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing at this step because you could make it a little messy if you grab the wrong one. But again, until you post it to your books, if you just bring it into the bank feeds and you go say something like, I brought it into the wrong bank account and it's in their bank feeds, you're still safe. They're in the twilight zone. They're not posted to your books yet. So you just exclude those and you move forward. Okay? If you post them to your books, we can still fix it. It's just a little stickier. If you have trouble with any of this process, you need some training, you need someone to just do your books for you because you look at this and you go, you know what? I have so many better things I can do. I can get that second cup of coffee. I can meet my friend for lunch. I can go sell something. Then that's what Certum's here for. We've walked over to the transaction piece. We've gone to the connect account or upload transactions button. Also, if you already have a bank account connected, but for some reason you're the first situation we talked about earlier, in the middle of setting your books up for the first time, you have a bunch of transactions you want to bring in quickly and you don't want to chicken peck them, you can also still upload to an existing connected account. All you have to do is follow this upload transaction screen again. So I clicked upload transactions and it says manually upload. It says select files. Now here's the trick I keep, right? There are several ways that you can take a PDF and convert it to Excel. My personal favorite, because it has stood the test of time and it always makes my day easier, is AutoEntry. They used to be an independent company. They are now owned by Sage. I've used them for years upon years upon years because they do a very good job. You can also use, I know some people will say use Adobe. I've used Adobe too. It's not quite as clean. AutoEntry is made to take things from PDF, clean them up, and put them in Excel. And there's other ones out there too. I've seen ads for a bunch of these third-party apps that say they specialize in bringing PDF data from a bank statement into Excel. Pick your favorite, take a look, explore, have some fun with it. I'm just listing one, but it could be replaced with the name of several. Okay, so for today, we're going to look at AutoEntry. So for AutoEntry, see how I just segued right over there? Yeah, trying to save some time. I have this recent project that I'd worked on, and it lists all accounts here to the left, along with the date range that I imported for. When I actually bring them in, I bring them in through the home page. I pick the account that I'm trying to work on, and then I upload bank statements, okay? And so I go to my inbox and I upload bank statements. Once they're done, they'll be listed here for me to download, which is where I was before, okay? Let's go back here. Go to my inbox. Okay. All you do is you go to the three dots to the right and you download, and it downloads it as a CSV. Or actually, maybe it's an Excel, but I'm pretty sure it's a CSV. Where did I go from there? I saved them to my desktop. Just for today, I saved one of them to my desktop, and I did go ahead and alter it slightly to add some additional transactions. So this was the raw format. I actually had 1 or 2 lines here. So what I did is I changed up some of the details. The bank only brought in deposit or check, okay? I brought in some extra memos because I want to do a test while we're at it. Import ready, I made a tab for import ready, and I took away the 2 header rows, if you see right here, or I took away the empty row here, because we don't need that. What we want is our header row, which is your translation row. QuickBooks is going to say, this is what I have available as a tool in my toolbox. What field do you want to put in this field? So that's where you have to do what we call mapping. And the way you map is you go off of a header row and you pick the field from the header row and you put it into the books. All right. While we're on that topic, column A. We also delete column A. All right, because that's not necessary. We don't need to know what period it's for because we're bringing in transactions with an actual date. All right. So before we try to do this, I'm going to then take the import ready tab and I'm going to pop it out. Okay. I'm going to move or copy. I'm going to create a copy and I'm going to say to book, new book. Right? And I'm going to hit OK to make things as simple as possible where I cannot accidentally grab the other one. I'm going to hit save as video. Make sure, look what it did. It converted it to an XLS, but we don't want that. We want CSV, comma, separated values. Import ready. Okay. Hit save. Now we go back over here. And then we're going to go over to our QuickBooks. And I'm going to hit select files. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to pick this file we just made, import ready, and hit open. Okay, so keep in mind at this time you have already sent it to AutoEntry, your PDFs. You've collected your PDFs, sent them to AutoEntry or wherever your vendor is of choice. You've gotten them back in a CSV or Excel format, and you've saved them as a CSV on your computer. Then you took a few extra steps and you deleted any unnecessary columns or rows so that you have your main header row for your mapping purposes along with the details underneath it. We have now uploaded it here and we have confirmed that the end of this file matches the file, one of the file types in step 2. For this purpose, it's CSV. Then we go here and it says, what bank account are you going to? This is one of those whoopsie opportunities. Make sure you grab the right one. Okay, it's really easy to have multiple bank statements with different account numbers on them and accidentally put one in somebody else's. If you do that, it is fixable. It's easily fixable while it's in the bank feeds section. Not as easily fixable if you've actually posted them from the bank feeds and you're finding out that you brought in tons of transactions while you're doing a bank rec. So just be careful. Don't want to scare anybody. So I hit next. Is the first row in your file a header? Well, guess what, Susan? It is, because we just did that, right? So I say yes. How many columns show amounts? If some of your bank statements will have everything in one column, in which case it would be under one column with positives and negatives. In this case, we have 2 columns. What's the date format used in your file? Month, month, day, day, year, year. That's going to be most common, but you just want to double check. You make sure that I double checked. It's not year, 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 it's year, year. So let me do one more step. See, I remember now I had to fix it on this one. So we're going to hit date. And for those of you that don't know what I'm doing, I right-clicked on the column and I hit format date or format column or cells or whatever. And I'm just looking down, month, month, day, day, year, 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 year. Yes, I know there's not a 0 in front of the 3, but that's effectively what it's doing. Okay, so I'm going to hit save. Very important when you're doing imports of any type. It seems simple, but the complexity is in the simplicity, right? You have to make sure everything is in computer language or in the language of what you're trying to do. Otherwise, you can make some major goofs. Okay. So I saved it again, and you know what I'm going to do just for safety's sake? I'm going to go back and I'm going to re-upload because that's how I am. I just want to make sure, because when you uploaded it the first time, it's not staying connected to it. It's just taking a static snapshot, so we have to go re-upload it. Okay, so we're just going first. Now, this is when you talk about your header row some more. The QuickBooks field says date. What column from your file was appropriate? Date. Another thing that's really helpful is to know the QuickBooks fields you're trying to map to and name your columns or your header rows exactly what it said. Okay? So for description, I picked details. This is where we put all those little memos beforehand. Just because you're converting a bank statement to an Excel file with one of your tools doesn't mean you can't pre-format things to make it come in a little cleaner. Let's take that extra step and make it work for us, right? So let's do our descriptions, because I can tell you it's a lot easier to do descriptions in Excel and then get them in QuickBooks than it is to go onesie twosies in QuickBooks and change all your descriptions. Money received was our credits, money spent was a debit, check number was under check, right? Notice we didn't bring in the balance column, but that's okay. There may be columns you don't want to bring in. These are the columns you need to bring in, okay? So continue. Choose the transactions that you want to import, right? So what it's done is it's already taken all the transactions from the 2 column and converted them to 1 column. That's why you see deposit is positive, check was negative, and so forth, right? And all those memos that we did playing around came over. How nice would it be to be able to drag and drop your memos? Because you can use table functions in Excel and maybe filter by vendor name or enter vendor name. Well, I guess you couldn't enter vendor names, but you could enter your descriptions, group everything and have it all nice and pretty, you know? I'm a fan of things being nice, clean, and pretty. Okay, so then I'm going to say, let's bring everything in. If this is your first time doing this, try doing 2 or 3 at a time until you get the hang of it, and then you can go bigger. But the last thing you want to do is get Johnny Bravado and decide, I'm going to bring in a year's worth of transactions because I know I can, and then have them come in and goof up. So hit yes, import was completed. So we just brought in 16 transactions, right? Can you imagine if you had hundreds that you had to bring in and you thought you had to hand enter them? That would not be fun. So let's go ahead and hit done. Now look, you just had an account pop up. So you know what I'm going to do next? I'm going to do a video on bank reconciliations. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause myself right now. We're going to do a second video, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you come and watch the second part of this video where we're going to go through how to do bank recs now that we have some manual transactions brought in. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you very soon.